an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 163 through 165. In these episodes, well, we get to find out what the ordeal of string is. It has an even lower survival rate than the ordeal of spheres, which I think was 10%. This one's 3%, which seems kind of rude. And I am not ready for the number of different factions and gods that are happening in this universe. Is it a religious war? Would we call it that? Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Bernadette for commissioning this episode. Bernadette, what's up? First of all, really glad that I got to watch 3 episodes this time. And I am going to need some real help with names because we've got a bunch of new players sort of dropped into our laps. So just so everybody is aware that I might struggle with that. The only one that I remember, well, actually, I was about to say that I remember, and I'm really loud now. I'm like, is that right? Is the name of the guy with the bazooka Wiper? I feel like it's Wiper, but as I say it, I'm like, that can't be right. Is it? I feel like I almost have it, but that's not quite right. I need some sort of character tree or something to sort of refer to. But Gus says yes, Wiper. Oh God, I really hate that. I thought it was right, and then when I said it, I was like, but that's such a bad name. That can't be right. And I think it's supposed to be Wipeout, it's supposed to be a reference to sort of surfing, but it just sounds like wiping your butt. And it's really, there's just no sense of intimidation that comes from that name. Spelling it with a Y does not make it more intimidating. So yeah, I'm going to need to talk to Oda about this and just be like, look, I don't know if that is the name translated directly from Japanese or if they put a sort of different spin on it when they translated it or what. But we just definitely still need to workshop this one. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so this first of the 3 episodes, called Profound Mystery, Ordeal of String, and Ordeal of Love, ? I had told you guys about how interested I was in the Ordeal of String and really kind of wanting to know how that worked and that I was getting excited to see how it goes. And it turns out that it's another way of shaping the clouds. So we've got the Ordeal of Spheres, which is hiding weird sort of obstacles in spherical clouds. And then the Ordeal of String, it seems like these long, thin clouds. And so I'm assuming that the other ordeals it's all references to the kinds of, the way that they are able to manipulate clouds in different ways. But I don't know if that's true. It's just sort of what I'm going with since it seems like we're establishing a theme here. Jessica says, I know him as Viper, and so always associated it with snakes. Oh, why do you know him as Viper, Jessica? Where is that from, the dub? Or I'm watching the dub. Is that from the, subtitled one? I would be happy to go with Viper instead, personally. So thank you, Jessica, for that, because I may just go with, I can't just call him Wiper. It's too weird. I don't like it. But anyway, I have to bounce back and start from the beginning. Oh, Jessica says the German translation. Okay, cool. All right. Well, the Germans have done a better job than the Americans on this one. Not the first time. And we're going to go with Viper. So we start this episode with the moment. First of all, I had forgotten to mention in the last episode, because he repeats it this one, so it reminded me. Satori. I feel like it's Satori. He says that he has won several awards for his technique. And I just really love the idea of weird tournaments that take place to like evaluate the kinds of techniques they're using. This is the kind of thing that for me would spawn a really fun fan fiction. A lot of fanfics have to do with like ships and whatever, fine. But for me, it's always like the mention of something weird offhand comment like this. And I'm just like, wait, what? From whom? How? I want to know. And I would like to write about it. But yeah, they are still in the midst of this fight with this guy. And he comes up with this dragon, and it's like a series of these little spheres that are kind of pinned together in this way that looks like a caterpillar body kind of, and then he has put like a dragon head at the front of it to be, I guess, more intimidating. But it's the kind of thing that, as he puts it, if you touch it at all, it'll explode. So basically, like, good luck fighting this thing. And, of course, Luffy does not think this through. So he begins to do the direct fight. And Usopp is the one to step in and stop him and be like, have you thought this through at all? Dude, you can't. And Luffy eventually finds a way around that. But, all right, let me talk about... I love the titles for these episodes. I love that Ordeal of Love is ? Like, it's just such a surprise. And it turns out that this is something that Sanji just kind of makes up on the spur of the moment once he decides enough is enough and he is going to start kicking this guy's ass. But, yeah, so Usopp stops Luffy as he starts to, like, actually fall into this trap and completely do the exact opposite thing that he is supposed to do. And I love that Usopp is the one that actually comes up with a plan here, because of course he does. Because Usopp, because he doesn't have a superpower, honestly, I think that's what does it, is that he has to think ahead, because he can't rely on his sheer strength. So he's forced to stop and think things through in a way that Luffy has not had to do in a while. And I want to say, even as I'm saying this, I kind of feel like even when Luffy should have stopped to think things through because he had not yet eaten a devil fruit, probably he didn't then either. So... this dude is yelling at them about how your boat is about to leave the forest and then you'll really be lost. You'll be wandering around here and just die of exhaustion. There's nothing to, there's nothing to eat. You don't know where to go. And Luffy tries to punch him again. Satori is like, nice try, and comes at him again with this dragon sphere attack. You can't run forever, and wherever you stop, the firebomb ball will be waiting to incinerate you. And honestly, this thing chasing him looks pretty dope. I am pretty into the sphere thing. I think it's kind of fun. And as Luffy is doing this and like distracting him, Usopp is off in the woods. Okay, I think we're going to be able to get this. And Luffy is running to this tree and realizes that this guy seems to be able to read his mind. Finally, he's sort of catching on to the fact that he can always tell what movie he's about to make. He runs up the tree and kind of does like a flip. And when he flips, there's this string. And it turns out that this wire is like what Satori is using to direct and control the dragon. It's rather funny because there is so much about making the spheres that are like little bombs or little weird eggs with snakes in them or whatever that just feels like straight up magic. that to then introduce that he needs a wire to control this sphere dragon, I'm like, he does? Like, I just assumed that he can just do whatever because this is his power, you know? But yeah, once Luffy grabs this and he like tears the wire into two pieces, Satori absolutely loses his mind at this point, and it's just like, well, you've ruined everything. Get over here. And he yanks on Luffy's, like, on the wire that Luffy is holding on to, thus pulling Luffy and the dragon toward him, which of course results in an explosion. I am not clear on exactly how Luffy is meant to have survived it. Like, later on, Satori seems surprised that Luffy has, but Satori didn't seem to expect to die from the explosion either. So I'm kind of wondering if the priests have a sort of immortality or like a higher, what's the word I want? Resilience. And he's just surprised that Luffy has it as well. But anyway, Usopp, while Luffy is in the midst of this, he's like gone through to the edge and he has found like the open air. And he says, oh, I knew, okay, this is where we are. Now I know where the exit is. The boat doesn't really matter anymore. Which they do wind up getting the boat back, but it is a kind of a neat thing that they had a backup plan. So, but he heard the explosion. He goes running back. And, I really enjoyed just the huge crater that was made from this explosion that's lined with all of these like swords and knives. I think that it's meant to be that bomb was like filled with shrapnel that was going to also injure them if the explosion didn't do the job. But he is standing there on a sphere gasping, going, that was really close. Satori is. And then Luffy is like on his back and is like, wow, that was close. And I really like, this guy has been so confident and had been having such a good time that to see him just kind of irritated by Luffy, I don't even like seeing him be just flat out beaten, which be fun, sure. But seeing him just kind of annoyed, there is something about that is more satisfying. You know, it's like the fact that Luffy is able to not only not fall for whatever this dude is doing, but also make himself a nuisance. It feels like a real different kind of, and stronger, I would argue, victory. So, yeah, then they start fighting because Satori is just like, he calls him, you horrible little man, let go of me right now. And then Sanji says, don't let go of him, Luffy. And this is when the beatdown starts. Luffy is like, I'm going to put this man through a new ordeal. The ordeal of love. Because this guy has tried to hurt beautiful angels. You keep saying challenge this and challenge that, which normally wouldn't interest me. But there are helpless ladies waiting for me to come to their rescue, and I refuse to let them down. And then we get a series of kicks that so he says, Satori says something earlier about this, like, the explosion that Luffy causes by redirecting the sphere dragon toward him. He says something about how it would keep him from being able to use his Madra. Or I say Madra because that's from One Piece. My bad, guys. That's mantra. But they pronounce it like mantra. Like it's 3 syllables, even though it looks like it's just mantra 2 syllables. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be that whatever it was, let's see, I'm trying to find the spot. That Maniac must have had a death wish. This isn't good. I've got to intensify my training. I can't let a weakling like him get the upper hand in a fight. Not even for a second. That might block me from using my mantra. But why? Because it seems like what Luffy being on his back does block him from being able to do that, because once the fight with Sanji begins, Sanji absolutely wrecks this man. And the whole thing of I'm going to, be able to predict what you're doing, it doesn't seem like it works anymore. So I'm not exactly, and I don't think I'm supposed to know quite yet why it doesn't work. I'm just sort of asking because in general. But yeah, Luffy wraps him in like several layers of his arms, like he's a ball of yarn practically with his stretchy arms. And I am assuming that is somehow affecting what he can do. And I'm not sure if that's even related or not, but it feels like it. And if it is, I'm unclear how they know that's how it works, because I don't recall it being mentioned or it being like, I'm just not entirely sure how they know what to do to sort of disable his power at this point. And I don't remember if later on, because the crew gets together by the end of this trio of episodes, just small spoiler alert. But they wind up all together again and they all start talking about what they experienced. And they do mention about how like these guys can tell what we're going to do before we do it. But I don't recall them saying that they can interrupt the power. I may be wrong about that. But let's see. Gus says, I think it requires some level of focus to use. Ryan says, I thought it was just Luffy holding him so he couldn't move away from the kicks. Maybe that is all it is. I've been sort of under the impression that this guy can fly, and I realize that it's like he's got the wings on his back, but we've only ever seen them riding things that can fly. They've never flown themselves. So I guess I just assumed that he could fly away whether Luffy's wrapped around him or not. Or maybe he can fly and it was like holding down his wings. Is that what's going on? Let's see. Gus says, what I got from it is that once he was distracted and missed the prediction because of being startled by the explosion, Luffy caught him, and now it doesn't matter if he can predict their moves or not. I'm a little confused about what you mean, Gus. Do you mean like once he lost his focus, basically he couldn't get it back? And it was just sort of like the explosion like completely shook him out of it? Is that what you mean? Because yeah, I'm like, if that's it, that's fine. But it's just the kind of thing that it seems like they managed to put two and two together in a way that didn't feel like it was explained to us super well. And so I was a little bit confused about how this like wound up going. So it was such a slam dunk victory. It was completely, there was no chance, and Sanji saying, you don't need to be a cook to know what dish is best served cold, which is honestly a pretty good line. Season the main course with a smattering of defeat. And then he says something about like brutally tenderizing the meat. And we see Satori get like a tooth knocked out and blood flying everywhere. I love as Sanji like leaps and descends, he becomes pretty much a sort of like a sphere, or not even a sphere himself, but more like a blade shape almost, because he's like pinwheeling. And yeah, he nails this guy right in the head, and Satori goes down, and it is like no contest at all. That's it. That's over. Gus says him losing focus was what let Luffy catch him, and now that he's caught, he can't get away. So, like, he can't regain his focus because Luffy's on him, just because of, like, it's not for any magical reason. You're saying it's just because having somebody on your back fucking with you would just fuck with your concentration, just straight up as a person. Okay. I can deal with that. That's acceptable. But I just wish that was like communicated a little bit better, because I just feel like that wasn't clear, if that makes sense. And especially since Ryan had like a different interpretation, it seems like I'm not the only one who feels like they don't. For me, the indication that something wasn't clear is always when multiple people have come away from the same scene with very different explanations of what just happened. But okay, so I got to back up a little bit here, because there is another thing going on in this episode where we meet the little person, the little like young kid who I think turns out to be a girl that is like hiding out in the woods and like digging things up and putting them into their bag, is named Isa. And Isa is part of this community of people that are living in basically like teepee huts. And it's clearly meant to be a sort of like native aesthetic. And okay, so this guy is named Kamakiri, the one with the mohawk. And he had this dude, everybody from this community honestly looks extremely badass. Honestly, it's really cool. There is a moment with a flashback to the first time that Wiper attacks them. And Wiper, in that flashback, they had clearly either not fully settled on a design, or it was just not really important to depict Wiper in great detail. Because Wiper looks like a fucking string bean in the flashback. Really skinny arms and legs, kind of gangly, almost. But then when we meet him here, he is bae. Wiper could get it. I'm just saying. I have to stop calling him that, though, because I can't handle it. Ugh, Jessica, I wish it could have just been Viper for me the whole time, and then it would just be how it is. But, so Isa runs past this guy, and there's a meeting going on, and everybody is talking about what happened with Gonfall, and that he entered the upper yard for some reason. And I think it's Viper, and I'm doing it, Viper, that says the old bag of bones thinks it's his responsibility to protect the people of Skypiea, and that will only make him weak. We would be wise to strike while our enemies are occupied with each other. And there's a woman who is kind of pushing back on his suggestion here. Because he is just like, it's, nobody can keep us from our destiny now. It's time to take action. They have had the audacity to reign as God, and that is unforgivable. No matter how different from the others they may seem, I assure you they are the same and must be eliminated. And the woman, Laki, it seems like her name is, it has been 6 years since Eneru began his reign, and for the first time since he took power, a rebel has appeared on Angel Island. A young woman, I hear. Because the Sky Knight rescued the young rebel from judgment, Eneru now has reason to directly confront Gonfall in order to judge him. A battle like this between the former and current god has never happened. Strategically, this could be most advantageous to us. We must remember that Gonfall has never harmed any of us, not as the Sky Knight and not during his reign as god. And this dude just is like, I don't care if he never directly hurt us. He set himself up as fucking god. I really think that's fucking enough. And I can't say that he doesn't have a point. I don't know exactly how the guy handled being God, but because we don't really know enough about how the concept of being God works in this, like, mechanically in this universe, like, what, if you can just say, oh, I'm God, how do you prove that to people? How do you take that position? Like, what does that even look like? I can't say anything about the, like, context of this. But I will say that Viper feels like he's not what it is that she is trying to say, which is basically, let's sit this out and see what happens. He's just like, no, fundamentally, the guy is still trying to like reign supreme over us all. And that is really the problem. Not the fact that he is not so bad or hasn't like come after us in some way. It's just the fact that he thinks that he's God. And again, because I don't know how that actually works here, it's hard for me to say whether or not that's a valid point or not. It feels valid because just inherently in our world, if somebody is just like, oh yeah, no, I'm God, so what I say goes, that's bad. But I don't know about how this works here. And if he and the priests kill each other in battle, that will serve our purposes just fine. Otherwise, he is of no use to us. And this woman clearly does not agree. She starts sweating, and he basically says to her, if you have any doubts at all about this fight, then stay out of it. You'll just be in the way. And they do set out for this raid later, and it looks like she might be the only woman in the entire crew, which I thought was kind of weird. It's just like, it looks like there's like at least 30 or 40 guys heading out and one woman. And I was like, there's no other women fighters at all. So yeah, Isa is waiting outside. One of the people like says something about how he's in a bad mood, Viper is, so be careful. And Isa is like, he's scary when he gets mad. Scarier than God. And then the camera turns to this huge statue of another god that these people specifically worship. And they mention the name of their god later on. I can't remember what it is. We have got so many gods happening. It's really kind of wild how this show never seemed to have anything like religiously motivated at all. And now we've gotten thrust into a world where it's a fight between 3 different gods. This is a lot. This is quite a big jump. But yeah, so then we jump back to Gonfal's house. And Conus is talking with her dad, who is saying, we really need to try and create some way for those people to escape. We are the ones who, got them into this situation. And she gets this very fond look and obviously agrees that they need to do this. So then we go to the battle between Gonfal and what's the name of the hawk, like aviator man? And it's kind of funny because Chopper's just standing on the sidelines watching them fight really, like, hard. And it feels like a little bit like Chopper just keeps being like, wow, they're fighting a lot. Wow, they're very fast. Wow, this battle's intense. And I was like, I mean, it felt like it was so... Chopper's just like chilling with popcorn and is just like sort of, I wanted him to feel more involved in what was happening, but there really wasn't a good way to do that. I can't think of anything. So it just felt sort of weird. Gus says, do they call the statue a god though? I guess they don't. I mean, the statue might be of what's-his-face himself, Viper, but when the kid says scarier than God, and then later on Viper says, I think he says their God's name, and he's like, he's the only one that, like, we worship, or he's the only one that, I can't remember the wording he uses, but I'll get there in, a little bit. So I assumed that statue was of the God that Viper was talking about, but I might be wrong. So, yeah, Gonfal and, thank you, Shura are fighting, and Shura says something about how diplomacy is for the weak. They begin battling in midair in a way that, I mean, it does seem like they're actually flying here, but it might just be the way that they've chosen to animate it and make it really exaggerated. And finally, this is when he starts like the what do you call it? Ordeal of strings, because Gonfall is flying, and he's on the back of his Pegasus, and all of a sudden, they can't move. They like slam into what seems like an invisible wall. And Shura is very smug. Ooh, is there something wrong? And Gonfall is like, what did you do? Why can't we move? And it was interesting to me that he didn't even know how this worked. But yeah, it's he comes at him with this spear, gets him right through the middle. It's the fire spear, too. This is a serious fucking wound. Like, no joke. And then says, mysterious the strings are. If you have the audacity to enter the upper yard, you must answer to the 4 priests you were foolish to think you could beat us. And then when he yanks his spear out, Gonfall is gone and falls. LOL. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, everybody. But Chopper decides that he is going to rescue him. And there's this awful moment. Chopper jumps off of the side of the ship to save him. And apparently it does work the same way as regular water in that Chopper realizes that he can't swim because reminder, has eaten a devil fruit. And so there is a point at which he is like under there and just sort of floating and going, oh, right, I can't swim. This isn't gonna work out the way I wanted. And honestly, I again always forget about that side effect. And it just seemed really mean-spirited for him to be. He's trying so hard. The way he leaps off and just yells, I'll save you. He's trying so hard. He really is. Pierre is fine, I should mention. He is just chilling up there and like watching Chopper go down there and is like basically kind of freaking out because I think he realizes that Chopper isn't going to be okay, but he can't move. And Shura lowers his enormous bird over Pierre and says, follow your master. And he wields his spear. It lights up in flames. And then we hear Pierre scream. And then he goes flying into the water, so to speak, after Chopper. Do you guys know how much sadder I was about Pierre being injured than Gonfall? Like, I really get that Gonfall and Pierre are a team. You really get the sense. Pierre wouldn't be here if he didn't want to be. Like, Pierre seems to very much have a mind of his own. But I cannot help but feel, whenever it's like a human and his animal that are engaging in battle together, it just always feels worse for me when the animal gets injured because I just think of it as like a horse where they didn't ask to be here. They didn't want to be part of this. They were made to be part of this. And again, I don't really think it's quite the same for Pierre as it would be for a fucking horse. But I don't like it, and I want Pierre to be fucking left out of it. I'm just saying. Leave him alone. So at this point, Shura has seen all of them dropping through the cloud cover and basically assumes that he has won, and he winds up taking off. And eventually, Chopper gets saved by the birds, right? He gets saved by the like weird, what is the name of these birds that make this weird the South birds. And Gonfall is still alive, but really, really badly injured. Again, he got he had basically been impaled by a flaming, spear is not an adequate word. I want to say more like a flaming telephone pole. So the fact that this man is still alive, I really thought that we were just going to have him die. And I shouldn't have thought that because nobody dies. But there was a sincere moment of like, oh, damn, we're just going to do this, I guess. And then we cut over to Zoro and Nami and Robin. And they're talking about what's going on in this land overall and how sort of weird this is. Because Robin has found a well that's sort of like wedged under this tree. And is like, don't you think that it's weird that this tree is growing over this well? It just seems like people didn't realize how big the tree was going to get. I've never seen anything like it. And it seems like something with the way that like the nature and the growing cycle around here works is really off. As she is coming to this conclusion, Nami is way up in this tree. Genuinely so far up that I was like, Nami, that's probably not a good idea. But she's looking through her binoculars and has found something clearly that is like very upsetting to her somehow. And we get this like long drawn out, I'm so shocked that I can't even explain how this all happened kind of thing. And I was like, when we actually wind up finding out what it is that she has discovered, which basically this island, it turns out being dirt. The reason is it is the land of gold. It is the place that disappeared off the map in that other story where the guy said it probably just sank under the sea or something, and everybody was like, yeah, you're just a giant liar. It looks like it was shot into the air on that same stream that they used to get up there. So now it's in the air, which is honestly a pretty dope idea. I actually rather like it. It's like a pretty good explanation. It makes sense, like, also that the way things are growing here would be kind of off as well, because, like, a regular dirt and regular trees in a place that feels like it would be extremely humid and there's no, like, gravity, it doesn't work the same way here. I don't know. Maybe it's something more than that, but I'm willing to accept it. I think that's a cool idea. But the fact that Nami finds this out and then makes such a fucking production over not telling them the truth of what she found until they actually get there themselves, I was kind of like, it didn't feel justified to me, because she acts almost like she's scared. Like there's a sort of hysterical edge to the way she behaves the whole time that they're traveling that for me doesn't hit with just that discovery. I feel like I was expecting something more frightening. You know, I thought it was like she had seen some huge monster or I don't know, something else like this. But whatever, it's no big deal. They just needed to have the what do you call it? The big reveal as dramatic as possible. So we go into the next episode here. And this is when the whole crew with Viper is like, okay, we are going to be heading out and starting this raid. Heaven's answered our prayers, and it's time for us to crush those priests once and for all. On your feet, we're launching a full-scale attack on the upper yard. So Laki stays behind. Everybody else has left. And Laki is looking down at this little girl and saying, you have to grow up sooner or later. I know he makes you nervous, but you got to get over it. And she shoves this little girl off her in like a really sort of intense show of, it's not just you've got to grow up. It feels so like mean-spirited. I don't know. I was kind of like, what the fuck? And the reason that he is so confident, Viper is like not letting this girl finish her story about what happened. So he thinks that Viper and Shura have both killed one another because he isn't listening to what she's saying. He's not even letting her talk. So she stops Laki on the way out and is like, Gonfall didn't defeat the priest. There are others on that side of the yard, and they're the ones that did it. And I don't know who they are, but they're really scary to me. So be careful. And I don't know what to do with this little girl, but she seems pretty cute. And she's got this bag that she says has treasure in it. And Isa is like refusing to hand it over until Laki says, I know it has treasure in it. And when I bring it back, it'll have even more inside it. And I'm kind of wondering what it is that they can... Is it gold? Like, is there some... Because I know that's what's supposed to be on the island that everybody was like, you know, everybody was here for. But I don't know if it's... Maybe they just value a totally different thing. Maybe it's sort of meant to be set up that we think it's gold and then it turns out to be something very different. I don't know. So, okay. I'm kind of falling behind here, but... We have the scene of poor Chopper falling through the water and realizing, like, oh, I can't swim. I forgot. And there, oh, that's right. We've got this dude. What is the name? Is it is it Gadatsu? The dude with the what looks almost like dreadlocks, but they're sticking straight up off of his head, almost like a crown sort of thing. And he is about to go after these blue sea people as well. And then we go over to the guy with the giant dog, who is seemingly sort of meditating almost. In the area with all of these skulls, which Luffy takes a long time to register later on when they start going through there. He thinks that it's just big open fields. But these dudes are all getting together to begin to wreak havoc on our people. And they seem unaware that there is an attack that is about to come down on them from the tribe. Remind me the name of the tribe, if you guys don't mind. But yeah, they're pretty fun. They're coming in and they have all of these different means of transportation. Some of them are like on skis. Some of them are on what look like almost surfboards. And it's actually pretty dope. This is like, there's been a lot of moments of big groups of people who are meant to be intimidating, mobilizing. We've seen this so many times in this show, but they often don't feel that threatening to me. These guys feel like they have their shit together a lot more than anybody that we have seen before. And I'm just kind of into it. I'm really excited to see how this goes down. I don't know what they're like fighting, but at least as they are heading into the fight, they make quite an impression. I will say that for them. Gus says Shandians / Shandorans. Okay. So is it one of them is like a different translation? Okay. I think it's Shandorans is the way that they say it for the dub. So yeah, I'll go with that. And yeah, he says, we're not going to stop until we reach God's shrine and do not fear Eneru. The great warrior Kalgara is our one and only savior. That's what it is. That's what I'm thinking of, because they cut to that statue when he says that. Kalgara is our one and only savior. Only to him are we true. So they don't call him a god, but they're treating him like a god. That's the vibe, you know? So I think that's why I assumed. And especially like having this giant statue. And when he says this, nobody else really like says anything in response. I sort of expected everybody to cheer or, you know, not really. Nobody seems to, I can't tell if they're just not really on board for this fight or if they don't agree with the motivation behind it. But again, I will say the camera sort of pulls out in front of the crew here for a moment. And I just do not see a single other woman in the crowd. And I may be wrong about this. Maybe I'm just, the animation is done in such a way that it's hard to tell. But yeah, it felt a little bit like we've just got this one token Laki in here. And she does look lethal. I'll say that. She looks like she's going to be tough. But Viper is bae. So I hate the fact that I like him because he seems like kind of a dickhead. And he lifts his bazooka, essentially, and takes a shot. And every single one of the priests turns with that like look on their face. And they're like, oh shit, they are here to start a fight. That's what's going on. Okay, well, let's do it. And then we jump back to Nami and Zoro and Robin, and she leads them to the top of this area and shows them the building. It's sort of a weird thing because she says like it looks like a copy, or no, I think maybe Zoro says it looks like a copy, but we get a flashback to the like really elaborate building sort of facade that what's his face Cricket had made for his house. And then we get a look at this building. It doesn't look the same to me. And I know that the building, I think it's just supposed to be, one of them is the cartoon rendering in a book for kids, or just a book. And one of them is what it actually would look like. But unless they did the exact side by side, here is what they're thinking of and this is what they're seeing, I would never, ever have put together that these were supposed to be the same building. And frankly, I am not entirely sure that I buy that Nami would either. Like, it seemed like a real stretch to me. And I don't know if that's just because we didn't get enough of a like foreshadow of what the building would have looked like if it were a real building and not just drawn like a cartoon, or what. But there didn't seem to be almost any resemblance at all in my mind. And I was sort of mystified for a second before I like really understood, because especially Zoro saying something like, well, it's almost an exact copy. I was like, it's not. Like, it was a weird moment that I just wanted it to hit different, because clearly they all, it made quite an impression on them, but it didn't for me. And it just took me a minute to catch up. And I want to know if I'm alone in that, because everybody, it just seemed like we're immediately going, oh, wow, yeah, this is the same one. Like, they don't even have to talk amongst each other to figure it out. Immediately when they see it, they all come to the same conclusion right away. And Nami even says when they approach it, it pretty much speaks for itself, doesn't it? As like the reasoning behind why she didn't tell them before they got there. And I was like, it kind of doesn't. I'm sorry, it doesn't speak for itself. Like, I didn't get it until you said it explicitly and showed me pictures side by side. And even then it doesn't really hit for me. But anyway, this is all like this reveal here with her is sort of interspersed with the Southbirds and the fact that they are obviously, they came up with the knock-up stream with the island, and these Southbirds are way bigger than the one that they brought on their ship. So clearly there's something going on here with like the growth of this area, and it is out of hand. Which also makes sense that like the what do you call them? The priests all are riding these giant birds of their own. Like, evidently you could just find big ass birds around here, I guess. I mean, that seems pretty handy. So I do think that this is a cool, like, overall idea though, that this piece of the island just got caught up and carried away, and the knock-up stream affects land as well as ships. So there would be this weird piece of Earth, essentially, in Skypiea that feels like either it's actually sacred or actively dangerous, whatever. But I just thought that, like, I just wish it was executed a little bit better. But I think the overall concept of it is pretty cool. And I feel bad for Noland, because he really, like, was telling the truth the whole time, and everybody just thought that he was a lying liar. And I love that he's animated the way that he is so that he looks like such an idiot as well. Like, he had commented on that, but it really gets hammered home in this little montage that we get. So I'm going to jump ahead to the next episode, 165. Jaya, city of gold in the sky, head for God's shrine! Exclamation point. Here we go, kids. So, Jessica says it's the other half to Mont Blanc Cricket's house. Wait. I thought it was supposed to be that it looked like the building that he had from the... Wait, maybe I just misunderstood what they were trying to tell me with that, like... Mont Blanc only had half a house? I think maybe that's what I didn't realize, Jessica. I thought that he just had a regular house and he just like put that facade in front of it at, like, kind of as a gag. But I didn't realize that he only had half a house to begin with. Yeah, see, well, that's what I'm saying, Gus. Cricket built the facade because it was in the book. And I thought they were saying that the building they found looked like the building in the book. That's what I've been, like, kind of mystified by, because it doesn't look like that at all. So, and when they do the montage, they show the facade first before, like, eventually transitioning into the story from Cricket and all of that. So it felt like that was okay. Gus says they comment on that it has 2 stories, but there's no staircase in the house. Okay, because I saw that Nami said that, but I wasn't like processing because I was so fixated on the facade thing and the illustration in the book that I wasn't like understanding what that meant. Okay. I just totally misunderstood that whole thing. I see what's going on here. Okay. So they recognize the building because the back half looks the same, I guess, the half that he had. Okay. That makes a lot more sense because I could not, I was like, even if you adapted something from a cartoon to a real building, it still doesn't really look like that. So I don't understand how they could have known. Okay, that's what it is. It looks like Cricket's exact house because it's half of his house. Okay, I got you. Yeah, thank you guys. That really clears that up because that was what I got so stuck on, as is clear, because I was like, it felt like I was completely on a different page with everybody else in that moment. So, all right, cool. I feel better now. Thank you. So once they have this sort of figured out and they've realized like what this island is, it sort of feels like then we hit the kind of speed button a little bit in terms of everybody else getting together, heading in the right direction finally for the first time. So I love that there is a point where Usopp has grabbed the boat with yet another one of those like ropes. He's done a different thing this time, but same principle. And they all get yanked because the tension on the rope continues to increase until they get like pulled toward it. And Luffy is like, I could have just stretched out and grabbed it and we would have been fine, because they're all laying like injured on the deck of the ship. But they are heading through and exiting that part of the forest that they were in and heading into a new set of territory. And it's clear that there is going to be a different ordeal that they have to deal with. And poor Usopp is just like, man, I don't want another ordeal. Can't we did the one. Isn't that enough, please? And this is when Luffy is just like, it's just a big grassy field. And Usopp is, dude, there are literally hundreds of skulls impaled on sticks. Are you looking even at all And immediately Luffy's like, oh yeah, you're right. But dude, seriously. So they are on this Milky Road, as it's called, which I still don't like, but I accept it. And Luffy is low-key excited about dealing with another ordeal. And then this like smoke cloud sort of appears out of the woods. And they're thinking that it's going to be one of the priests that is heading towards them. But instead, it is the Shandorans who are coming to attack and just kind of soar over their heads. And Viper could have just left them alone. Because, like, why not? But he just doesn't like the cut of their jib, I guess. So he, in midair, launches a cannonball at them from his bazooka. Luffy jumps up and uses the balloon effect of his stretchy ability to bounce it back toward them. And for a second, it looks like he's just going to let it go. He's like, you know what? These guys are clearly going to be an issue, but they aren't the ones that we're supposed to be dealing with right now. We're going to keep it moving. And I'm like, all right, cool. We're done here. But Luffy, who takes it very personally that he fired a fucking cannonball at them, is just like, oh, really? Do you fucking want to go? Because we can go. Let's do this then. And even Sanji is like, man, I don't know if we want to do this. He recognizes Viper and is like, oh yeah, this is the guy that like attacked us that one time. And Luffy is just heedless. What do you say about a fair fight? Just you and me. You just stay on that tree branch. And this dude, there's a moment where he seems like he may take him up on it. He's getting a little bit irritated with Luffy, and it's clear, like, he wouldn't be mad at punching this kid in the face. But Luffy and Usopp begin to fight with one another, and he just goes, you guys are probably going to kill each other before long anyway, so I may as well leave you to your own devices. And I thought that was a pretty rational move, actually. Just like, no, yeah, I pretty much expect you guys to destroy yourselves from the inside, so I don't really need to do anything here. That's kind of brutal, but I can see why it would look that way. It's of course not true, ever. Our guys just love each other too much, but I could see why it would look that way. So we go to a series of moments like with the Shandorans and the priests fighting one another. And it's just quick flashes. But it is clear that things are getting pretty real for them, which is what's giving our friends a little bit of a break here. They are able to sort of regroup and compare notes about what they've all been through, because these guys are too busy with each other. And the priests do seem to be kind of wiping the floor with the Shandorans. Like, I like the whole vibe of the Shandorans, to be clear. I don't necessarily agree with whatever their motivation is, because I don't understand it. But the priests have been such dickheads that I pretty much want them to lose, like, no matter who they're fighting right now. And seeing that they were kind of kicking ass was a bit of a bummer. I don't know. Maybe Luffy and his friends can become, like, they can fight for the Shandorans and then earn them as allies and help them kick these guys' asses. I don't know. But I just overall feel that the priests have to be like overall bad news. So Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji, the road that they're on drops down into this spiral. There's like a series of wild. They go up really high as if they're climbing a roller coaster at one point, but then they just like fly off the end of it. It's too scary, guys. I really do not blame Usopp. I love as they're like going up and he's just saying, I have a really bad feeling about this. I feel like something right after this is going to it's just going to be really bad. And once they come like up to the end, Luffy is like, oh, see, that's why, because we're just going to go flying off of like a cliff in the clouds. Luffy, how do you manage to just maintain your equilibrium all the time, no matter what? You're never bothered by anything. The only time Luffy's like bothered is when somebody assaults his friends or keeps him from getting to the food that he wanted. That's it. Those are the only things that seem to affect him at all. And I feel like that would be a really nice way to live. I would like if I could sort of internalize that attitude, but it doesn't seem like it. I will say, as much as the priests are wiping the floor with the Shandorans overall, Viper does pull the trigger on his bazooka right next to that one dude's face, which is pretty badass. So then we have Nami, Zoro, and Robin coming back to the ship. It's absolutely completely fucked up, and they're like, what's going on? Eventually, Chopper comes out and is like so embarrassed, honestly, that the ship is in such bad shape that when at one point Usopp joins back up with them and says to him, I'm just glad you're okay. It's a good thing he didn't light you on fire. Poor Chopper was expecting a reprimand so much that just the fact that Usopp is saying it's much more important to us that you're okay just causes him to burst into tears. And there was something really genuinely moving about that like Chopper he puts a lot of pressure on himself. And I just really felt for him that he thought his friends were all going to be like so mad at him. Dude, the amount of destruction this man wreaked on the ship, it's very clear you weren't going to be able to fight him by yourself. Nobody expects that of you. But Chopper is just like, I feel for him so much. He's like a weirdly like an overachiever, and he clearly, it's like a lot of it comes from also just loving his friends and wanting to do right by them specifically. That moment where Usopp is like, we'll figure it out. Just good that you're okay. I really appreciated it. I liked it a lot. So this is when Luffy is like, so what happened to Gonfall if he came and rescued you? And they go in and see that he's in bed, and Chopper has been, giving him various medicines and stuff to try and save him. And he says, I would be dead for sure if it wasn't for him, and we probably wouldn't have a ship. So we are going to have to continue doing things to get him back to peak health. Pierre is over here, again, pretty much just fine. Oh my God. So cute though. The fact that they use a person to do Pierre's voice, like the weird bird sounds, it's just so funny. I love him. He's such a weirdo. So Sanji is like, we're not making it back to Angel Island. We have so much work to do on the ship. We are going to have to make camp. Also, this guy being sick. And he says it's easier to fight from land than from an altar floating on a cloud. So we are going to have to go onto the island in order to camp. And Luffy and Chopper are both super excited at the prospect of camping. And they decide that they are going to have a barbecue and try and have some fun with it. Honestly, and they barbecue, I think, a bunch of the sharks, the cloud sharks that Luffy beat the hell out of as they came plummeting down. They are fully on a steak that they were roasted on, and Luffy is just holding the entire animal on a steak, eating a bite out of it. Most unseemly. But I can't really be mad because I feel like everybody earned this. They have been through a lot the past few days. So yeah, they all explain what they have gone through, the way that people were able to like foresee what it was they were about to do in their fights, which I'm extremely curious about how Zorro specifically is going to deal with that, because he hasn't been up against one of these guys. And knowing that somebody can predict your moves and experiencing it are just a really different thing. And eventually they get to the point where it's like, okay, and then this is the same island that has all of the fucking gold on it. And Luffy is all about it. He's so excited. And Nami is just kind of glad that he's on her side in terms of like, no, the treasure is very important. I definitely want to go after that. And I think it's Sanji later who is like, I guess we would probably be pretty shitty pirates if we didn't try and find gold. So, okay, we're going to do this. So we're going on a treasure hunt. I am pretty excited about it because this is just about as classic as it's going to get. I know that Nami is always looking for treasure. Don't get me wrong. But it's never really felt like that's what we're here for. It's just been her thing in particular. But I like the idea of doing something that feels so classic to me, you know? And they, of course, Luffy's excited about it. Chopper's super nervous about it. Usopp is like, God, it's going to be so mad. And Zoro's like, everybody hates us already, so who fucking cares? May as well. Aren't you a little afraid of the wrath of God? I want to live, don't you? But yeah, that's what we're going to do, is embark on a treasure hunt. So I'm pretty excited about it. I hope they find some gold, because they need a new ship. They keep talking about how, like, we'll just fix this ship overnight. And look, I get it. It's a cartoon. It's fine. But just how many times are you going to be able to fix it? This thing is barely any of the original wood that you started with. Just build a new ship, kids. Let's see. Gus says, wait, had to leave for a sec. Did you get to see the two maps put together this episode? Oh, did I? Because we have them, like, let's see, I'm trying to see the spot where Usopp has the chalkboard. Nope, that's just a bunch of words and letters. Doesn't look like there's a map. Did they put... I don't think that was in this episode. I'm not recalling that. Was that something that was going on with the Shandorans and I missed it? Because I thought that the Shandorans were just straight up like going in for a fight. I didn't remember if they had a map, but apologies if I missed it, because that feels like something that I would have remembered. But no, I don't see it in here as I'm scrolling in and out, unless it just didn't happen this episode, and maybe it happened the last one, but that's not ringing any bells for me. Apologies. Gus isn't. He says it would have been in the Straw Hats camp with Usopp. Oh, then no, that didn't happen. I don't think it happened. There's no mention of it, and they're just comparing notes here, but there's no mention of the map. Gus is over here spoiling me with his questions. Oh well, I'm sure it's fine. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap up, but thank you again very much to Bernadette for commissioning the episode. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.